If you buy timber as rough sawn planks, it can be quite a bit cheaper. The other advantage of buying direct from a sawmill is you can often get planks cut to the sizes you want. The sawmill will often let you pick through a pile of timber as well. This can be a great advantage when looking for timber for boat work. Often we're looking for grain that runs in a particular direction, that's nice and straight, and that the planks are free from knots. But to use rough sawn timber, you've first got to plane it down to the right dimensions. This requires some quite big machinery. I'll now go to the workshop and show you how we do this. If you don't have the machines you need, sometimes the mill will be able to do this for you. If not, there may be a community workshop where you can borrow the tools. Here's my raw plank. First thing I need to do is to make sure the edges are square and cut any cracks and other odds and ends off. So I'm going to do that using a builder's square, also known as a framing square, and just a basic skill saw. Never forget your hearing protection, put those on, wearing eye protection, line up the framing square, and this is basically going to form a solid. I can clamp that to the piece of work, I can run my skill saw across it, and it will keep it upright and square. Okay, first job done. So now what we need to do is square up this plank. Now the problem with raw lumber is by the time it's dried and it's ready to use, it will have twisted, it will have warped, nothing is going to be totally flat. So we need to get one side not just flat that way, it needs to be flat that way as well. And that can only be done where you've got something long to cut it on. So the next thing we're going to do is to move across to the jointer. So the next job is to get the base of this plank flat. And to do that, we use a jointer. It's basically a big rotating cutter set in the bed. There's a guard over the top, there's an edge guide. But the important thing is, it's very long. If you try and do this on something like a little hand plane, I've got one here. If I were to try and flatten this plank with a standard plane, I've only got that length of bed. So it can go up and down, it's not going to get the piece of work flat all the way across. The longer the cutting table, the more accurate it's going to be. So I will put my ear defenders on, I've got eye protection on, and we'll start this thing up, and it's noisy. Immediately see the problem. You can see how out of flat this plank is. The jointer has basically cut a flat section in the middle and it's left both of these sides. So we need to keep working on it until that's flat all the way across. So that's pretty much flat across the entire plank. I've still got just a little bit this end. I'm not too worried about that. it's going to get trimmed off later. So having got that piece flat, we can now use that flat edge to guide it through upright, and that will enable us to clean up both of the edges. So machine on again. Right, so we've now got one flat face, both edges flat. We've still got the top edge to do. You could do that on a jointer. It's not the best machine to do it. We need to switch to the other plane machine, which is a thicknesser. So this is the next machine. So this is a thicknesser. It has a short flat bed. It has a blade that can be adjusted up and down, and what it does is it runs the flat side of a plank across the bed and cuts the other side so that it's an even thickness. The beauty of this is that you've still got some twist. This plank is quite a bit thicker this side than it is this side, and it can take that off until you've got an even thickness. That's going to matter when we come to do the joints. So gear on. So that's got the traction running. Now we turn the main machine on, and this you can see where it's cut, so it's cut a lot off this side, hasn't cut that side, hasn't cut anything off this. This will eventually get it flat. Run it through again. So turn it down, about half a turn. So you can see here, it's lifted some of the grain. The reason that happens when you put something through a plane is if the grain is sloping sort of that way, the cutter will pick up the edge of the grain and it will cause that roughness. So dead easy to do something about that. We simply turn the plank round and go through the other way. This time I'm also going to only adjust a quarter of a turn. I've got the plank flat. What I want to do now is get a decent finish on it. So I want us to take much less off. So that's got our piece of wood prepared, ready to start cutting the lengths and cutting the joints.